I'm grumbling at some of the trolls. Good God, it's hot in here again. So we're live again for another GM's Tricks of the Trade. I'm going to assume that my volume, or sound, and camera is actually working this time, which is a first. No, I think actually Tuesdays went fairly smoothly. Maybe 2020 will be the year I master technology. Good deal, Red Dragon. So I don't have to bother Chuck about remotely fixing stuff from his outpost in Virginia. How's it going, KGRs? I don't know how to say a lot of these internet names, so I'm just going to throw it out there. That's what it is. Yeah, we'll just go for this week. Maybe this week in 2020 I will have mastered technology. But I couldn't get the Google thing to open earlier, and I've been railing about it for about 20 minutes. So it really didn't go off without a hitch. We'll give everyone a few minutes to come wandering in. I'm going to reboot the Twitch channel. Not reboot, whatever it is. Refresh. My brain is addled. I can't keep up. Alright, there we go. We'll see how that goes. How is everybody doing on this wonderful Thursday afternoon? Got a little bit of cold and a little bit of rain down here in Arkansas. That's about it, though. Yeah, I definitely need a refresh button. What's going on now? Now something's good. There we go. All right. Stream elements. What is this? Okay, that's not me. Yeah, a refresh button would be good. I've been having all kinds of problems with my phone lately. Starting 2 days ago, it just dropped service every now and again, and we've done, I don't know, all kinds of crap to it. It still keeps doing it. It seems to be working at the moment, but who can say? Who can say? Yeah, I cleaned up. It was getting a little greasy and a little itchy. Had to go. And this is about to go too. I can't take it much more. Either Kathy's going to cut it tonight, or I'm going to go to the barber in the morning and get it all cut off. Can't stand it. Ever since I was in the Army, I can't stand it beyond my ears. Drives me kind of bonkers. Hey, Douglas, my daughter's wandering around somewhere in Colorado now with a bunch of her college friends. Join the ball club. Yeah. Get it done. Yeah, but I think then if I shaved it, wouldn't I have to keep shaving it? Or I don't know. I want to do as little as humanly possible to the top of my head. That would be the ideal situation. Yeah, they're skiing today. This is her second day skiing, so she's pretty nervous about it. But I told her to conquer the slopes, show no fear. I went skiing once, though I didn't show fear. I certainly didn't show any aptitude at skiing. That's what Tim was talking about. I skied. We were in New Hampshire or Maine. I don't know where we were. The White Mountains, I think. And I'd never skied before. And Tim and Kenneth, who both had skied, they put me on the medium slope. It was Maine. So was it the medium slope? Whatever. It wasn't the bunny slope. I know that. Because I remember Kenneth asking you, Tim, if Steve should be on this slope, and you said, he'll be fine. I can see your face now. He'll be fine. It was not fun. I literally slid down that entire mountain on my butt, bouncing off of all. Yeah, I was a little more limber, which is good, because I bounced off of trees. And I remember it ended with me going over a bank of snow and into a car and hurling ski boots, and it was an entertaining day, to say the least. Yeah, that's true. Today might not be so healthy on my bones. That's the way to do it, Peter. That's the way to do it. Just plow right through it. Well, hopefully she's having a better time today than I did. 20 odd years ago when we would be bopping around in Maine. So today in the GM tricks, we'll give it a couple minutes before we dive into it, but we're doing treasure again. We did one just before Christmas and then a couple weeks off, and then we're going to do not treasure, experience part 2. And I'm going to get, I'm always lost in what I'm doing. I'm going to get a little bit more specific on things that I do at the table to kind of speed things up or make shortcuts or what have you. Experience is always, it probably, I don't know if this is fair, but it's one of the parts of my GMing that has changed the most, and if not the most, close to it since the beginning. But it has evolved. It has evolved immensely since I started running games back in 79 or 78. Started playing in 76, 77, started running games I think in 79. Might have been 80, but I think it was 1979. When Davis, my brother, he started doing his own games, and then I started doing games as well. But yeah, as pointed out, if anyone has any questions or comments, don't hesitate to jump into the chat here and point out things that you might do that are different than I'm talking about, or solutions you have to problems or questions or whatever. Like I've said it before, we've all been gaming a long time, and well, a lot of us have. Some are new, but and we all have kind of little tricks that we do to facilitate various and sundry things at the table. As we know, it always goes awry, or frequently goes awry. We'll give it about one more minute, and then we'll dive into trick of the trade number 1, keeping it fluid. Experience is always fun. Frustrating on the player's end, entertaining on the GM's end. I keep clicking that and messing myself up. I see what I'm doing now. Alright, I'm going to refresh that browser. No, I'm not. I'm going to stay the course. If I could do George Bush, I would do it. Stay the course, stay the course. It was Dana Carvey did that great George Bush. I think it was Dana Carvey. No, it was Will Ferrell. He did a fantastic George Bush. Oh. Speaking of which, you can do it. Yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it as good as Will Ferrell. Stay the course. I love listening to George. There's clips on YouTube. You should check them out of his slip-ups in language. I feel kind of a kindred spirit with him because I frequently just make up words and mispronounce them and then combine 2 words into creating my own. And he kind of did that a lot when he was president of these here United States. His Rickyism, yes. George Bush, Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, and the Troll Lord all kind of have language in common. We just make it up. Well, you know, Tim, you always told me language is fluid, so I'm just going to go with that. I'm just going to roll with that. The language is fluid concept. All right, well, with that in mind, let's dive into experience points for players, for characters, not really players. It wouldn't do them any good to tell Jack at the table he's got an extra 200 experience points. But so last 2 weeks before Christmas, I just kind of did a brief overview of, and I'm just going to touch on it real quick, a brief overview of experience points. One of the things I think that it's easy to forget on experience is it is a major tool that the GM has to set the tone of the game that they're playing that night, or a campaign, or an adventure, or however it is you're doing it. And of course, it can change from time to time as you want it to speed up or slow down. Now, by the way you give experience points, whether it's through role playing, slaying monsters, like we talked about today, good ideas, story awards, treasure, gold, whatever it is. There's a multitude of ways to give experience points, so the GM can use that as a tool to speed the game up, to slow the game down, to get players to play a certain way, whether it's combat heavy or role-playing heavy or a mixture of both or whatever it is. Experience points becomes this kind of behind-the-screen tool to help manipulate is all the wrong word there, but to help guide the game in the direction that you want it to play. And if that's not working for your players, it allows you to shift it in other directions as well. So there's nothing to say that on week 1 game you're doing role playing heavy, and doling out experience points quickly for that. No one's enjoying it, so you shift in week 2 or 3 into something else, giving experience for, you know, whatever other deal that's going on. So experience points is a wonderful, wonderful tool that I think is frequently overlooked, and that allows GMs to set whatever tone they want to do, whatever type of game they want to do. And with that, we talked about all kinds of stuff, from ways to give experience points. Like I mentioned earlier, you can give it by gold, you can give it in a combination of all these gold, treasure, magical items, spells, monster slaying, problem solving, story awards, you know, the list goes on. It's just so anything really that the players are doing on their end with their characters allows you as a GM to give or not give experience points for that stuff. Slow and speed up the level progression, which slows and speeds up monsters and encounters and everything with the game about it. So it's just a fantastic tool. So this week we wanted to kind of build on that. Yeah, in full ramble. And this week we wanted to kind of build on that and talk about a little bit more specifics, because that's one of the tough things. Once you start giving experience points outside of the normal, rules framework, which when you kill an orc, it's 10 plus 1 experience points, and when you kill an ogre, it's 90 plus 4. I don't know. It's something like that. But everything's kind of got a set experience point value to it. Monsters do and treasure does. But once you get out of that, you're in kind of gray territory, because there's not many guidelines on how much to give, when to give it, and all of that stuff. So that's what we sort of did. That's sort of what we did this week, is we dove into that. And so with the principle that we just talked about is that experience points is a way to set the tone of the game. Keep that in mind there in column A as we dive into column 1, and as we get into GM Trick 1, as we get into the ones that follow this, and anything else, any variant of the stuff that we're going to talk about, keep it fluid. Keep the amount that you're going to give away for whatever it is, a good idea, a bad idea, thinking out of the box, and whatever. Keep it fluid. It can be one amount week 1, and it can be a different amount week 2. It doesn't have to be the same. You don't have to create some kind of chart and follow said chart to the end, and give everybody, so that they can track it. So one of the things that I really don't like about getting too detailed in these things in experience points charts. If you look in the Castles and Crusades, Monsters and Treasures, you're going to see a chart, and it tells you if the monster has X hit dice, its base experience points is this, and then you're going to add abilities to it, 1, 2, and 3. And it's been kind of a tug of war in the company whether this should be really kind of ironed out in stone. We sort of ironed it out. We didn't in the first 2 or 3 printings, following my direction of keeping it very loose. So it was very difficult for anyone that was playing to pick up the monster book and look at, say, a Chimera, and then figure its experience points out on that chart and make it equal to what was in the book. Many of those monsters in the early printings of the book were done off of the way I play them. So I would give them more abilities than perhaps are written there, because I play them a certain way, or I'd give them less abilities for the way they're sitting there. So that fluidity that I'm talking about spilled itself into the early editions of the Monsters and Treasures. Now this caused a little bit of an issue on the user end. Some people wanted more, kind of a more structured experience point, so that it kind of lined up, so that they could figure these things out. So somewhere around 3rd or 4th printing, I think it was the 4th, we began to kind of redo the experience point so that it would line up with that chart. I'm still not 100% happy with that. I really like experience points to be a little bit fluid. This trick of the trade here is really, even if you see it written in stone in your monster manual, whatever book or game that you're using, the experience point is X. Don't hesitate to change it. I mean, there's no reason to not change it. Maybe that orc is smarter than the other orc. Maybe he's not as smart as the other orcs. Maybe he's skilled in one particular aspect of fighting, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can create, invent reasons or not. You're the GM, so you don't have to do that. You can set it whatever you want. This actually is a good principle to follow, because it keeps players from tracking what they're getting. So they're going to learn after a while, especially your veteran players that already know what certain monsters are going to bring, so when they kill them, they know what they're going to get, and they know kind of where they are in their progressions and all of that business. And it's not good. It's not good for the players to ever second guess. In my opinion, it's not good for the players to ever be able to second guess the GM. They certainly can trick the GM and outsmart the GM and all of those things, and that's great. But at the end of the day, the rules need to be yours, and you need to be running the game. So don't hesitate to change even a monster or even a magic item's experience point that they give us. So and as I'm going forward talking about these things, like everything is off. I must have sneezed and just knocked everything off, and it's going to drive me a little bit batty until I fix it. So that should be fixed there. Okay, good. Just do it. I see. I literally just got the monster book last week, and now I see the binder edition is available. Terribly tempting. Yeah, that binder thing's pretty cool. I gotta say, I was reluctant to add it to the Kickstarter, but Tyler Morrison talked me into it, and it's in there, and it turned out to be very good. It's pretty stout. So, GM trick of the trade today, number one, keep it fluid, and I think that's probably a theme throughout all of these tricks of the trade is just whatever you're doing, don't hesitate to change it up, shake it up, and keep the players guessing what's happening behind the screen. Don't let them pin you down on anything. No reason for any of that. All right, I'll keep moving. All right, so with that in mind, with keeping it fluid, let's jump into spells. So this is, here we go again. I'm off whack. Now everything's going to be off whack. Okay. So spells is something that, now everything's going to be off whack. And there's that title, it's off whack too. Yeah, I think I moved my frame before I went live, and my frame was off, and now that I moved the frame, blah, blah, blah. So there's our technical difficulties for today. So much for 2020 being technical difficulty free. That lasted all of 10 minutes. All right, let me get this thing. I don't know, something's sticking. Bear with me. I think I got just enough OCD to drive everybody insane. Very sitting there. All right, well, I'm done with that because it's wearing me to the bone. All right, so I'm keeping it fluid. That's exactly what I'm doing. Keeping the technology flow fluid. So, all right, hold on. I got an emergency. Okay. All right. Now, completely broken my train of thought. Spells. Okay, so I actually give experience points away for spells to new magic users. Now, I'm going to just digress for a moment. We talked about this before, I know, so some of you probably have heard it, but in the early days when I started running games, I kept experience points. I was very, very stingy with them. If you only got it for magic items and monsters, if you picked up the magic item first, you got the experience points, and how the percentage of the monster that you kill is the percentage of its experience points you got. What this immediately meant is the spellcasters at low levels were way back there because the fighter's doing most of the damage, the rogue or the cleric's right behind it, but the wizard, illusionist, whatever, it's way back there. So I developed very, very early on a way of giving experience points for spells, and it's sort of, in my mind, it's equal to the fighters that they're fighting, the paladins that they're fighting. The wizard is as well, and they're learning a craft. So, and unlike the fighter who already knows all of his techniques, the wizard is learning spells as he gains them. So, and the cleric too. As the cleric gets more spells, she's going to pick up, at second level or third level, she's going to get more spells and she's master. So I always give experience points for spells, and I think I gave a little chart in there the way I do it. As they use them for the first time, in the Castle Keeper's Guide, we go over this. We take this same concept and put it in there, and it's kind of written out that you only do it for the first time they use it. I don't really do that at my table. I do it for the first 2 or 3 times they use it. I will also do it if they've used a spell 150 times, but on the 151st time they do it very differently, and the impact or the way they actually use it is so different from previously. I'll give them experience points again. And it's just a way to feed experience points to the spellcasters who often need a little bit more than the fighter classes and the rogue classes, experience points to progress, but don't have ready access to the blood and the iron of any battlefield. So, there's a little chart. I'm looking at it now. It's 50 experience points at first level, 100 at second. That's not that right. That's right. Okay. The other one I multiply by. So it's just a way to just throw experience points out. The higher level the spell, the more they get. It's sort of like finding a new magic item. Is basically the principle. And again, I keep that fluid. If I want more experience points for the spell or less, I do so. So there's no real kind of formula that I use. That's kind of the baseline that we're going to do in the tricks of the trade that I adjust off of. If the spell is really crazy powerful, say like a wish. Here I say that for a wish it's 25,000. For a 9th level spell it's 25,000. I think wish is 9th level. But I might, because wish is so insanely powerful, I might do 45,000, something like that. And it just kind of helps drive that, get the spellcaster moving forward. Chuck, absolutely. Creativity has a huge part to do with it, because especially with these spells that are used so very, very often, over and over and over again, and it's the same thing since 1977 to today, that Fireball does this, the Magic Missile does this. But when they take a spell and they use it really creatively, one, I'm pretty open on interpretations of the spells, but also it just, it's something different at the table, and it helps everything goes forward off of that. Everyone loves that type of stuff. If something they're used to does something differently and succeeds, and you reap a reward from it, it's just exciting all the way around. Let's see. How did you keep track of how many times they've each cast a spell? Well, you're only going to have probably 2 or 3 spellcasters, and generally it's by memory. If they cast whatever spell for the first time, usually, not always, but usually, I'm going to know whether they've done it before, just because of the impact on the game. That said, the higher levels you get, the spells start stacking up, and I just ask them, I said, this is the first time you use a spell? And they say yes, or they say no, and then I give them the experience points. It goes back to that thing on cheating. There's just not a lot of cheating. There's very little cheating that I know of at my table. So I suppose there could be a lot. But it goes back. RPGs are just not games that I can't get my head around people cheating in an RPG, so I pretty much take their word for it. That's what they did. This is the first or the second time. And then I'll eke out experience points. Or like I said, if it's really out of the box thinking on this thing, then I'll do it. Yeah, yeah, that's true. It is no longer cheating if you know about it. But I can only, in a 30, 40 odd years I've been doing this. How many years have I been doing this? However long. I know one guy that cheated regularly at the table, and it was just weird. It was just weird. He would do it in front of everybody. He wouldn't do it if I was looking, kind of looming over the screen. But it was just strange. I don't know. It was strange. But he doesn't play at my table anymore. He also wore a weird straw hat and always wanted to go to hoedown. This guy was as far from a hoedown as you could possibly imagine. He ended up in politics, if that tells you anything. And no one in politics goes to a hoedown. So, anyways, hoedown aside, generally I just ask. I don't even track it. And even if they have forgotten or what have you, it's not that the experience points that I will reward isn't that huge of a deal. All right, so let's no raw game. All right, so let's go to trick of the trade number 3. Something is sticking out of that frame. I can't find it, but I will. So I kind of lumped these two together. This is role-playing, good role-playing, and I shouldn't say good role-playing. That's not a way. Role-playing that impacts the table is what I mean here. You have great role-players, and you have people who aren't comfortable with role-playing out their characters. I'm one of those. When I play, I don't make a voice. I don't, eat a couple of coconuts and beat them together as if it's my horse galloping. I don't do any of that stuff. I just play the character and I talk in the voice that you hear now. So I'm not one of those role players who goes all character. So when I'm talking role playing, I'm talking about a role playing sequence that achieves something, defeats the monster, convinces an NPC to do something, unravels a situation. Something that actually changes what's going on. Just like killing a monster, just like finding treasure. It's absolutely it's got to be something that impacts the game. And it's the same. It kind of rolls in with the concept of ideas. Again, I'm not talking about, and this is what we talked about in the last GM Spirits of the Trade. I'm not talking about necessarily good ideas or bad ideas or ideas that fail. It's just ideas that are kind of out of the box. I give experience points. It's not to say that you shouldn't give experience points for a good idea, but when I talk about this, I'm kind of talking about ideas that are just different. When they look at a situation that they've faced 7 times before in the past, 14 games, they look at it differently, and the idea that they put forward is something extraordinary or something ordinary that's never been used before, something that's just not common. So that type of role playing and that type of ideas, I will give experience points for. And this is one of the very, very few times that I ever call players out. And I don't call them out, but if they have a good idea or thinking out of the box or they're role playing this, I'll actually say that was a fantastic way of handling that problem. Here's 500 experience points, or here's 5,000 experience points, or whatever the case may be. And I'll get to that in just a second because I don't always do that, but it's a way to kind of encourage people to play a certain way, and those people who kind of look at problem solving in a linear fashion. You have to kill this monster. You have to catch this trap. You have to listen at this door. It'll kind of show them that if they think about each of these problem-solving situations differently, then there's a reward there, even if it doesn't succeed. There's still a reward there because they're thinking out of the box. And kind of, as a side note, kind of one of the reasons I do that, I think I've mentioned this a few times in the Tricks of the Trade, that I really like being surprised. As a Catholic people, that's our Catholic crusade. But as a GM, I really like to be surprised because too often, you throw situations against players that they've got to figure all this stuff out. You know what the solution is because you wrote the problem, and there may be 3 solutions, so they got to pick one of these, and you're not going to be surprised. And frequently they do the same things. They kind of solve problems the same way, frequently with the edge of a sword or a fireball. But when they go out of that, when they do something completely different, it's really cool because it immediately makes me do what I'm asking them, the players, to do constantly. As a GM, we always ask players to think, to react quickly, to make life or death decisions, on a paucity of information, and there you go. Now they're giving that back to us. When they think out of the box, that's coming back at me. Now I've got to do it. My monster can't react to reactions I know that they're going to have, and my monster has to react, or whatever it is, has to react to something completely new. So now I have to think. So it's really, I really like to do, I really like to encourage out of the box thinking. This doesn't always play with all players. A lot of people don't like that type of game. They want it kind of cut and dry and mechanically driven so they can kind of decipher what's going on. But for the most part, I think that people respond to imaginative play a little bit, very positively. And now, just as a side note to what I said earlier, I only shout out experience points that are given for good role playing and good ideas at low levels. I don't do it at high levels because then it starts sounding almost disingenuous. If you give a 15th level wizard 500 experience points, it doesn't matter because they need 250,000 to get to their next level, so it's not going to have that great of an impact. If you give them 5,000, it does, but if you start shouting, you get 5,000 experience points for this, the number of it, the sheer amount in that sales pitch, if it were, is too much, and they're going to start then just doing all kinds of crazy crap, trying to grab 5,000 here, 5,000 there, even though percentage-wise it's no different than 100 experience points, not much different than 100 experience points for a first level to get 25 or 2,500. So somewhere around, I rarely will say. I don't think I've ever said anything over 1,000 and over. If I'm giving 1,000 experience points for some action, I then just shift my tone into you get experience points for that, and then, you know, you can mimic writing it down or just make a mental note that I'm going to give experience points later. Yeah, Chuck, it's a great idea. It really is, because it encourages players to play, to problem solve, and that's what makes this stuff kind of cool, is when you're thinking out of the box. I absolutely love thinking out of the box. All right, so let's dive into number 4. We're just shooting through these today, aren't we? That's because we had no technical difficulties. I think I might have already talked about this. What are we doing here? Monsters. Oh man, you went all classic. So that cover there you see next to the frame, if I quit moving stuff. Something's got to put engine somewhere. Grad 5, nope, that's it. Probably 1. It is 1. Nope. Alright. I'm just literally talking to myself at that string. So that picture, I wish you hadn't hollered at me that was what you were putting up. That's actually a full wraparound picture, and the dark elf is coming out. She's in front of a cave, and there's a cave behind the. Is that a chimera? Yeah, I think that's the one that breathes fire, right? 3-headed guy. So that one's the chimera's coming out of the cave, and Sarah Walker who did that. It's this. When you look at the full painting, it's absolutely beautiful, because I don't know, it's just got great context to it. And if you look in the cave, there's a little bit of treasure in the cave. Yes, Dreamy, yes. Peter knows. Sarah Walker, we call her Dreamy. That's her Facebook handle, right, Peter? But she's got this really cool, and we had to remove this in the second printing, but it said in the original printing, Guy Dax was here, or Guy Dax was here on the wall in the cave where the chimera is coming out. So that was pretty awesome. But that's since been replaced. She did another cover for Classic Monsters, third printing. And now that book has been absorbed by the Monsters and Treasures, so it's all... we got to figure out something to do with that piece, Peter. That thing is absolutely beautiful. It's also got a nice... the fire, you can't see it there, but the fire explodes out. It's just lots of color. Just a good picture. Yeah, the 10 method. Yeah, there you go. I was watching Archer this morning. What am I jibber-jabbering about? Where are we at? We're on Tricks of the Trade, number 4, Monsters. So I talked about what I did earlier when I divided monsters up and kind of spread the experience points out. I think actually I already talked about the entire Trick of the Trade. Okay, so different systems are going to call for different things. So when you slay a monster, frequently, if the monster is worth, say, 25,000 experience points, say it's a dragon or something, there's 5 players, and you divide that up, and everybody gets experience points. Some game systems call for that. Some game systems don't. I always recommend that you use the monster differently. Now, if you want your progression, again, going back to kind of our concept in the beginning that experience points can be used to set the tone of the game and set your progression speed, your level progression speed. Here's a perfect example of that. If you want it to go slow, divide that monster up between all of the participants. But if you want it to go a little faster, and this is kind of where I am these days, everyone should get the 25,000 or the 400, whatever it is. If the ogre brings 180 experience points, everybody gets 180 experience points that participated in the battle in some capacity. I even do it whether they do damage or not. That's not even part of the question anymore. So long as they somehow participated in the battle, they get experience. And in my head, I justify that because they were there, they saw it, they saw how the monster reacted, they saw what weapons worked and what weapons didn't. They saw how to use spells or not how to use spells. So, generally speaking, because I'm looking for a slightly faster level progression now. Generally speaking, I give experience points for everybody gets the same amount of experience points for the monster. I don't provide anything else. But again, it's that same principle that we talked about with trick 1. Is you can keep it very fluid. See, this is driving me crazy because I got that top of that logo there. You can keep it fluid by changing up the way you give experience points. And again, don't nail yourself down. Don't make it that you have to give experience points this one way every game. Do it one way week 1 and a different way week 2. And whatever it is that you're trying to achieve at the table, use experience points as a tool to get to that end. The GM's grab bag of tools is gigantic, and experience points is really way up there in one of the biggest tools that you can use for all kinds of stuff. The knock spell. Creative tip on using the knock spell: use it on all the buckles and straps of the opponent's armor. Okay, see now first I want to tell you, I've run Ravenchild Art here is Peter Bradley. He's our art director here. He and I have been working together for almost 2 decades. And Peter's run one of the best illusionists I've ever DM'd at a table, CK, whatever. What were we doing? What game were we playing? Had to have been Castle of State. So it was CK in a table. And that there is a great example of a creative use of a spell. You're not just knocking, opening trunks or chests or doors or whatever. He's actually completely incapacitated his opponent in one melee round, probably for 2 or 3 melee rounds, because the knock spell has unwoven part of the armor or all of the armor or whatever have you. It was at that lake. It was one of our Geneva cons, yeah. But that's a perfect example of using spells kind of out of the, I completely lost my phrase. Out of the box. I was thinking out of the buckle, but it wasn't working. Peter, you got it in my head with your knock spell. You knocked my thoughts out of my spell. All right, no emergencies in the Skype, so everything seems to be working. So anyway, use monsters like you do everything else. Use monsters and the experience points that they gather, that they give, very fluidly to set the tone of the game. So the last one, and this is probably the hardest of all of the experience points methodologies or whatever it is story awards. Story awards are frequently called for in many games where they finish the players, characters, whatever, it finish the adventure and they get X amount of experience points. And it's very hard to determine. I mean, I've done this for a little while, so I've seen other companies and other writers create pretty complicated algorithms or equations or whatever that would factor in the number of monsters, the average hit dice, the number of traps, difficulty of the traps, NPCs, blah, blah, blah. It's too much. It's too much to just, you're going to spend too much time doing something that at the end of the day isn't going to make a big difference as if you just kind of figure out what you want to give, what you need to give for this adventure, how tough the adventure was. And by that I mean not even how tough you made it, but how tough it was for them. Because you may have made it tough, but they might have had a lot more trouble to get through it, or they may have figured it out far quicker. So it wasn't as challenging as you thought it was. The story awards are very hard to figure out what you're going to give and what you should give for whatever adventure that you're running. I give in the trick of the trade a very brief and very, very keeping it fluid type table, and so I'll just repeat that real quick. At first to third level, it's 250 times the level of the character. At 4 to 6 levels, 500 times the level, 7 to 11,000 times the level, and so forth and so on. And the reason that I gear this up is obviously so that the experience points actually has an impact on the overall experience total. If you just give 1,000 experience points for achieving an adventure, that's great at first, second, third level, but at 15th level, that's irrelevant. And I usually I run campaigns generally, not generally, always. I rarely do one-offs anymore. So about every 4 to 6 sessions, I'll give everyone the story awards. And all I do essentially is I flip back through my notes. I keep everything in a notebook so I can go back and see what I did last week and the week before, what monsters they fought, what encounters they had, what NPCs they talked to. And then you'll see I'll have little notes. Can't remember now what Chris did. Yeah, so there's this huge part of the game that I'm running now. They're trying to bring back the God Orin duel. They have to get the words. The words of the Red God, there's 5 that they have to capture, and these are really kind of spiritual essences that the wizard has to absorb in some capacity. They've got 2, they needed 3, and they've been searching for the other 3, and they haven't had much luck. Completely side adventure, had nothing to do with any of that. They were visiting some druids to deliver something, I can't remember what, and they were invited to just commune with the great tree that's there in the Eldwood, and Chris communed with the great tree, and I can't remember spelling cast. It wasn't scry. It was some kind of telepathic bond or something that he cast with a rune. I remember that that allowed him to commune with the tree via magic, meaning to say he wasn't just trying to find peace in his grove, he was trying to find information, and that's the information that he sought for. So I made a check. It was a brilliant, he outsmarted me. It was a brilliant way to get all of the information that he needed, and they did very quickly. I absolutely loved it. The tree yielded the information because it had no reason for not to do it. But I made a note there on that night's adventure notes that he had achieved all of this, solved X riddle. So he got more for the story award. I just kind of lumped all of that stuff in. And they're 14th level. He got a lot more. He got like 70,000 or something, and the others got like 50, because he unraveled that so quickly, and I had little notes to kind of follow it. And since they're 14th level, that actually has an impact on the game. But I only do that every 4 to 6 sessions. So, whenever they finish something, it's rare that we begin something, we start gaming about 8, and it's rare that they begin an adventure at 8 and end it at midnight when we stop. It's 3 or 4 weeks later that arc of the adventure is achieved, and that's usually when I don't want to finish. Sometimes it's weekly, but it's more frequently it's 4 to 6 games, something like that. And that's what I would recommend, unless you're doing. Some people DM very differently. If you every week you want them to achieve this dungeon, and then definitely give them at the end of the dungeon. So when they go into the next week's game, they got their experience points and can have whatever powers they may or may not have from level acquisition. So that's kind of what I do there. But on this chart that I put up here, it really, again, the fluidity comes into adjust and shift it however you need or feel you need to for the game. Sometimes at that level there, I know, they're all past 13th level, which means in Castles and Crusades, they're not doubling experience anymore. It's just like 150,000 next level, or $250,000 to make the next level, or something like that. So I definitely don't give 70,000 out a session. They would go up a level every 2 sessions, and then replay 4 times a month. So in 6 months, they would be 23rd or 24th level, and it's too fast. For me, from the way I get, that level progression is far too fast, because there's no build up to your power. So for me, I really need about 6 to 8 sessions between level games for both the player to get comfortable with whatever powers they have, and for us to build that into the story that we're weaving, that they have this new skill, or they've taken off this new track for whatever reason. So that's one reason that I spread out story awards quite a bit, so I keep the levels from going up too often if they get too much story awards. And of course, you can ratchet that back down. You don't have to give it. You don't have to give as much. Cut that in half. Whatever you're comfortable with, or double it. Whatever you're comfortable with, giving experience points. And it's something, as you GM, I would recommend, if you're brand new to it, definitely use that little chart. It works. It's not very difficult to understand. It works. You move on. But then as you get more comfortable with your game and your players and the way you all want to play together, then you can speed it up, slow it down, drop it all together, whatever it is that you need to do. Yeah, Rita, I'm the same way. I really do not like leveling up fast. I know some of these games you can level up in 1 or 2 sessions, and for me, that's just it's not the way to do it. I don't give experience points for like gold, and there's a lot of stuff I don't give experience points for. Even like now at 14th level, they don't get much experience points for killing a giant. They kill so many giants that they figured that out. Yeah, I like to keep it slow, definitely. A drink of water. Well, Chuck, that's an interesting question, and it involves my mortality. So we started the big game, which you see woven in. So Chuck asked how long does one of my campaigns run, say at the 10th level or so. So we ran the big game. I'm going to give you a little bit of history for this. We ran the big game. We started in 1985 or 1986. And that's the game that kind of became the Codex of Air. That's where, that whole milieu was built around. So that still is running. They're 25th level. We play about once a year, maybe, because they've kind of done, once they drove Unklar off the plane, they kind of did everything. And now we're trying to find it kind of a new footing for these 25th level characters, because they're insanely powerful. So, but we stopped playing that one. I yield when I joined the Army in 1991, got out in 1993, so picked that back up. Somewhere around 97, 98, that's not right either. We played that pretty consistently, probably to about, Todd is going to correct me, I'm going to be all wrong. We played it pretty consistently about 2000 or so, and I yielded the table for quite a few years, and other people started running the games. But and we kept playing the big game when I did. So the game that we're playing now, we started in 2006, and my idea was I'm going to speed up level progression because it took to them 15 years of gameplay to get to 25th level, and that's too long. I mean, I'm over 50. I don't have that much time left, so we can't do that many more times. So I tried to speed it up. Turns out it didn't work at all, and we sped it up for the first few years, and it slowed back down because we're playing that same game that we started in 06 with Castles and Crusades, and it's 2017, so we're 11 years into it, and they're 14th level. So I would say, now again, I don't run every session. Chris runs sessions. Kim Hartzell joined us for a while. He ran sessions. Mac does. Todd does stuff. So I'm not always running the game, but I probably run a game 2 to 3 times a month. And we do about a level a year, I guess, a little over a level a year, which it sounds crazy, but it's a lot of sessions before they jump up in level. So I would say to get 10th level, it's going to be about 7 years of game. The more we play, the more we do, but these days. Yeah, Red Dragon, it is slow. It is slow. The funny thing about it, one of the things I like about it being this slow, now we're seeing some fatigue, and in like Todd's playing the Ranger, and he's kind of camped out. I think he's 14th level. He's kind of camped out in all of his abilities. Now, what he gets in the CKG are just more enhanced abilities of what he already has, which doesn't allow him to do anything different. Now, Max Golden began hybriding his character at 3rd level. He was a Ranger, decided not to be that, wanted to be a Knight, and I didn't make him dual class or multi-class. He would just take, instead of getting the Ranger's next ability, he would take, he took some of the Knight's abilities, and now he's kind of moved on beyond that. So he's this hybrid character. But where it really, the slow level progression has really been cool is with the spellcasting, because, and we found this out in the big game. The spellcasters get to use their spells frequently, and they get to use their spells differently. And so they know them. They know them like the back of their hand. And now, when I'm running a game and there's sorcery involved, Chris is able to rattle spells off very, very quickly. And it doesn't slow down with having to stop and what does this spell do? A little bit it does with the Rune Lord because we're kind of still new to that genre of magic. But with the normal spells, it's fast. And it's kind of cool because it's as if they've experienced all of this and got there. But I agree, it's a level progression. It's a little bit too slow. A little bit faster might be okay. What do I usually play? My favorite, without a doubt, is a Dwarven Fighter. Followed by that, I like Human Clerics. I really enjoy playing Clerics. I like to mix the idea of healing on the battlefield with death and destruction. I mean, it's really, I really enjoy Clerics. My only problem with Clerics is their spell lists in D&D. Now, I don't know about 5th edition. I hadn't had a chance to look at it. But in Dungeons & Dragons and Castles and Crusades, their spell lists are somewhat limited. They can't do a lot of damage. There's a little bit, but nothing that, nothing like the Wizards. And which, of course, is a balancing act because they can do damage with their mace and all that fast. But a little bit more, options in the spells. That's one reason that the Adventurer's Backpack was written, is to give the Cleric and the Druid a little bit more oomph in their spells. It's just something a little bit more interesting. So I absolutely love Clerics. I'm guessing that Clerics in 5th edition are healing machines. That's what I'm going to guess by your comment. Don't even look at 5e then. And I know that's the direction Dungeons & Dragons has kind of been taking the Cleric, so that, do I recognize what award? No, they play suck. That's just sad. Yeah, I didn't play 4e much, but Yeah, I knew. Was it in 4E that they began to shift into like healing nodes? Or that's not right. I think you could walk over a node and get healed. I can't remember. I didn't play 4E. We looked at it. Wizards of the Coast has been pretty tough with the. What is that? The E. Gary Gygax Award? Is that what that is? Whose award is it? I actually can't see it. I think my there's too much blur. All right, hold on. I can't see it. It says David. All right, I'll have to open it. I can't see that. It's too far away. My tired old eyes. I'm getting there. Yeah, you got me sidetracked, that's for sure. Where were we at? E. Gary Gygax for James M. Ward. There you go. Oh, was that a segue into the Kickstarter for James M. Ward that we're running right now? Which we are. It is, just to let everybody know. Well, you did get me sidetracked. I don't even know what I'm doing now. So we've got a Kickstarter going on. This is its last day. There's a link there for James M. Ward, Starship Warden. What's different about this Kickstarter, what's different about this version of the Warden is this is the one that James himself envisioned and designed in his mind way back in '76. So many of the Starship Wardens that have come out since then have been redesigned of what he wanted. They've been much smaller, much more contained, much more whatever. We let James go. It's his baby. He wrote it with Christopher Clark, and he did the maps, and they did the layout. And we're going to get into some art, Peter, Bradley, and I. But I'm not going to do any art, but we're going to get some art to put in there. To replace art that's in there. But this is the way Jim saw it. So if you're in the Kickstarter, you'll see it. You'll see the Warden as its creator finally actually gets to see exactly what he wanted it done. Read it, that happens definitely, but it'll be out, further down the line, so hop on board then. But life comes at us sometimes. You got to do what you got to do, without a doubt. But anyway, so the Starship Warden is on Kickstarter now. I think we've probably got 9 hours left. It's 10 o'clock tonight, I want to say, she shuts down. And then we'll move on to whatever's next, which I don't know what's next. We're going to wrap up. I guess we're actually done with Tricks of the Trade. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Rita, yes, definitely. Without a doubt, we're going to back our kit with that sucker, and you can jump in there. So if you're in it, I think the minimum pledge is $1 or $2 or $5 or something. You can definitely get in there. So and adjust. Isn't that right, Tim? They can adjust. Yeah, he answered it. So you can adjust pledges perfectly in there. And that's really a great way to do it. Backer kit's a great tool, and we've used them quite a bit. And makes things a lot easier. Kind of wish we'd used them on this CNC classic box set, but that thing continues to hound us. So I still have not gotten a chair, which I clearly need to do. So does anyone have any questions on experience points and awarding experience points? If not, I'm going to do a very, very quick recap on Kickstarters that we're closing up and winding down and what we're fixing to do. Yes, in golf, yes. I, to my dismay, discovered that we released one full adventure last year for Castles and Crusades, and that was mortifying. We got caught up doing all these other projects. Tim and I were just talking the other day that it's time to get back to Castles and Crusades to focus on, our flagship. So the plan is, we sat down with Davis just a couple days ago. We're going to try, starting in February, to have one new adventure out a month. I'm not sure maybe March before we actually dive into that, but we've got to get some new adventures out. Peter's got a map of a castle for me that he's working on that I'm going to do for the World of Aird, and I'm not sure what Davis is doing, but we're going to make it happen. Taylor, those actually weren't Reaper. Those were written by me or Davis, and we published them for ReaperCon, and I think they gave them out as swag in the bags. I'm not sure if it's ReaperCon. It's got to be coming up soon, I think. I think it's in April. I can't remember. But I'll get a hold of Ron and see what's happening with him. which would be great. So, quick recap on all the goobly-goop we got going on. So, Amazing Adventures 5th edition is 99% done. I think Jason has a list of corrections he wants to put in. When we get those, I'll send those to Peter. Peter will plop those in, and I think 1 or 2 pieces of art, and then we're going to print. I don't know. I was hoping by tomorrow it'd be at the printer, but it's going to be at the printer. It's going to be at the printer next week, one way or the other. Gaxmore, we're going through everybody's submissions now. I got a lot of those done this morning. They'll go on to Luke for approval, and then they'll go over to the 5th edition guys and Jason's crew to make sure that they are 5th edition and nothing's broken in SRD. There's a couple of things that people weren't aware of that we couldn't use, get and stuff like that. So we got to fix that. The manuscript itself is done being converted, and now it's on Dan Cross's desk for editing. He's going to dive into that, and I've given him a hard deadline of the 31st of January, so he thinks he can make that, so we're looking good on that front too. Once that's done, it goes to Peter Bradley for layout. I believe Peter's got most, if not all, of the art colored, so that project's going full steam ahead. Bits and pieces on the classic Castles and Crusades. There's still some overseas to ship. We're waiting for those little red books to show up, and as soon as they do, we will get that Kickstarter finally closed out. It's just been one adventure after another on that one. And I'm missing a big one, NPC books. So Davis turned over all the monks to me last week and something yesterday. I didn't look at it. So he's finished at least 2, and the cleric's done, so he's finished at least 2 or 3 of the character classes. So we're good on that front as well. That thing's moving full steam ahead. And then lastly, that leaves us Codex Egyptium and Codex Keltarum. Codex Keltarum is in its 2nd and final round of editing. Once it's done there, it gets thrown to Peter Bradley. I know Peter's got the art ready for it. Codex Egyptium, I've been putting the edits in. I didn't want to ask anyone in the crew to do it. They're our editor. I love him to death, but he does it all in red ink, and we haven't seen such manual labor in years. Normally, track changes are the way we go. Well, I'm into that, and I'll continue to doing that. Again, I'll have a better handle on it in the next couple weeks. And Peter Bradley, I don't think we can show it. I don't think there's any way to show it there in the chat room, but he redid the cover for the Castles and Crusades Spellbook Compendium, which is coming out, and it looks fantastic. I love the new direction. Absolutely excited about that. And so lots of Castles and Crusades goodness coming on, and the icing on all of that on the Codex Egyptium and the Codex Keltarum and the Spellbook is the Castle Keeper's Guide. We are up for a 3rd printing now. I think we're down to about 50 books left, so I have to do something on that one. So as a call out to all of you Castles and Crusades fans, if you have comments, if you've noticed something wrong in the CKG that you have, please give us a shout, shoot Chuck or Tim an email, and they'll get it to me so we can get corrections and editorial Smith in before we even launch the Kickstarter on that monstrous book. And for those of you who don't play Castles and Crusades, we're probably going to do a version of that at some point in the very near future where we strip all of the C&C material out of it. The Castle Keeper's Guide is really a GM's guide, and it's probably 80% not rules. It's just, like we talked about today, a way to give experience points for different things, charts that you can use, and it really is any system that is going to work. I think there's a whole chapter on world building that's got the sizes of villages and forts and towns and cities. So all of that stuff easily carries over to whatever game you're carrying. CKG is a great resource. And we're going to do a system-neutral version, I think, so that everybody can kind of... I know a lot of people are uncomfortable buying a book from a different system and they think it might be too tied to that system. The Castle Keeper's Guide is not. But you certainly can take it as is and use it in any game. But we're going to make that easy on everybody and do a system neutral one at some point. Yeah. So email corrections to productsupport@TROLLZAH.com, and Tim will forward those to me. And I think I've got the final file on that. Peter might, but I think I do. And whoever, it's either me or Peter, and whoever does will get those and drop them in the thank you, Rita. Yeah, a huge amount of work went into that from a huge number of people, and we're very proud of that product. It's just got mountains and mountains of it. Want the typo already? That's what you did product support. Well done. That's a very troll lordish thing to do. All right, well, that's about it. It's 2 o'clock. We're going to wrap things up. We'll be here. First off, thank you, everybody, for showing up for Jim's Tricks of the Trade. We'll be back again next Thursday. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, please do so. We send these out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays sometimes. So we send them out early in the week, and we discuss them on Thursdays at 1. And then I've got, we do a round robin, me and whoever's in the office, on Tuesdays at 1 as well. So look for us next Tuesday and next Wednesday. And I know that Chuck and Tim are working on a bunch more shows to come in on our Twitch channel. And don't hesitate to check out Chuck's channel too. I think it's still going, right, Chuck? So that's Babunski's channel. So definitely check all that out and keep an eye on us. We're going to keep hanging out on Twitch more and more. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Moondog, Red Dragon, Ghidorah, Last Laugh, Douglas, everybody. I'm off, and I think it's Dr. Patrick time. That's what I think. All right. Bye all.